here he is. We promised and we delivered. Kirk, we appreciate the time, man. I know like this is kind of the finish line. I can't even imagine it. I'm sure I'm hopeful for you, and I know you probably do some vacation planned and all that, well deserved. Everyone I bring on, I like to kind of share real quickly, and you'll strangle me for going through this, but real quickly, like two things I want people to know about Kirk. 15 years at ESPN, I'm kind of a teammate from a distance a lot, but college game day radio, doing hits with game day, and eventually the ABC NFL draft. There, honestly, I would put him up there. He and Mel Kiper, very different ways, the two most supportive people of me throughout my career, like serving as a compass, promoting what I was doing, a quick text every once in a while, make sure like, hey, we're doing it the right way. And also just helping me, with the ABC draft, and working with him was just kind of a special experience for me. So that's first of all. And second of all, I hope people appreciate, and I know Kirk's going to kill me for this, but like there isn't a more important voice in college football, an advocate for the sport. And it's never an agenda about a program. It's never an agenda about a conference. Like having kind of been there behind the scenes and some of the stuff, obviously not all, but the meetings with important people and the promotion of college football. That truly, I can honestly sit here and say, the most important thing professionally for Kirk always has been. Every conversation I've been around, overheard, one-on-one with him in conferences, the college football preseason conferences we'd have where everyone gets together, it's all about what's best for the game. And I've always appreciated that because he has an unbelievable platform, but he uses it truly to protect this game that we all love. So with that as the introduction, appreciate you being here, Kirk.
Man. I appreciate it. And I loved working with you. I hope one day we can do it again. I am drawn to people who have passion. I didn't know you. I never met you. But I was pretty well established by the time you came around. And I just found it's always been my role. I guess Darren Brown, my buddy, calls it quarterbacking. I just find my role is to encourage people to, like a guy like you or David Pollack or Joey Galloway or Dusty Dvorak or, you name it. I've never looked at anybody as a competitor of mine. I've never looked at anybody as somebody that's, one day they're going to try to take my job. I've just gravitated to like-minded people who love ball, who are kind of in this world of Instagram and saying crazy things and getting posts and what can I say, outrageous to try to get to go viral. I've always been drawn to people who don't really do that. They are drawn to loving the game, studying the game, promoting the game. And I saw that with you early. And I think that's why I would send you random texts or offer encouragement, just because I loved what you were about. And your career obviously blossomed and took off. But man, I think what your introduction is interesting because where we are currently in the sport with NIL and portal and 12-team playoff and all these debates, you get accused of having an agenda. You get accused of trying to do something for whatever league or team you're trying to promote. And really, at the end of the day, it's tougher and tougher to defend the sport. I do have the luxury of talking to coaches. You've been involved in these conversations where it's not the coach at the podium that we talk to. The guard is down.
Yes.
It's incredibly real. And they can't say what they say a lot of times to me. And then I have to figure out a delicate way to try to be a liaison between what's real and what should be said. And I'm willing to take bullets, for what's real. And sometimes that gets me in a tough spot. But it's fun. I mean, it's who thought, when you left, think about how much the sport has changed. I mean,
it's
just
amazing.
Those couple of years and where we are now, and who the hell knows where we're going, and then in the next few years with, I guess there's going to be a big meeting in April with revenue share and So by the time we sit down and talk next year, there'll be even more changes. But happy to be with you, man, and love to get into whatever you guys want to talk about.
It's almost like a preservation society, right? Like
Yeah,
all these beautiful places in the country. There's always like a preservation society that everyone locally can't stand because they cause problems and they tell you no at every turn. But then you look around and it's like, wait, this is still like the preserved land. This is what makes it beautiful. This is what is special about this area of the country, right? And
yeah,
I've always kind of viewed your role in those conversations you have with coaches and people who are like who care similarly to that you do, of like being their mouthpiece and trying to protect this game that we love. And so we'll get to the game in just one like last question on this, but as you look at this landscape and you know what's on kind of on the forefront and the meeting coming up that you're talking about, like where are we now and what are you hopeful in terms of where the direction we're going, knowing that a lot of things are inevitable, but what in your mind and Kirk Herbstreit's mind, like what's important that we are able to kind of preserve?
Well, the traditions, obviously. I mean, the rivalries, all that. A lot of this with the realignment, everything is just, it's like a fire hose. I mean, everything came at once. I mean, we're so focused on NIL and portal, but USC playing Oregon is a Big Ten conference game. It's like your mind's exploded, and so I think the biggest thing that concerns me is who's in charge.
Yes.
If you're Greg Sankey, you have a very focused agenda for as the sport moves forward about the SEC, and Tony in the Big Ten is focused on the Big Ten and their constituents, and of course they should. I think we're governing the sport like it's 1982, and it used to be a regional sport. Like I don't know about for you guys, but like if you grew up in Ohio in the 70s and 80s, it was only thing that you even knew about was the Rose Bowl.
Right.
What Alabama was doing or what Miami of Florida was doing. I mean, you watched and it was cool, but like it was like a different pool. It didn't affect you. You were worried, and if Ohio State finished 8-3 and they won against Michigan and they won the Rose Bowl, people went crazy. It was a great year and everybody celebrated. Well, obviously that's all changed now. So I think as the world has changed and the rules of engagement have changed, and now the Big Ten and what used to be known as the Pac-10 or Pac-12, now they've gone into the Big Ten, and now they're in with the SEC and Miami, and everybody is now together in the postseason. Well, now it's a national sport, and I still feel like we're looking at it through these different silos. So how do we move forward where the Big Ten or the SEC might think we need to go this way, and other leaders might say, no, we need to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how we get anywhere unless we eventually get to a commissioner with one voice that these conference commissioners speak to and convey their concerns in this commissioner's office. This is how we're going to move forward. I appreciate everybody's input. This is what we're going to do. The players form some kind of a union. It doesn't have to be, it could be former players. It could be a couple current players. Well, I don't know what the answer is, but you form a union, you create a collective bargaining agreement. You get through all the minutia of antitrust laws. You agree on NIL. You agree on transfer portal. You agree on dates and when things can, you bring some sense to this whole.
Yes.
Right.
And the players have to sign off on it. They agree to the rev share percentage, and everybody's okay with it. And now we have structure, and now we, like the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings play the Detroit Lions. They're both whatever they were, 14-2, and hey, winners take all. This is what happens. They're the number one seed, home field throughout. The loser, you're a 5 seed. You're going all the way down. It's just the way it works, and no one really debates it. It's not subjective. It's like, these are the rules.
Yeah.
College football has to get to that place. We have to get to that place where we've knocked that wall down, where players are being paid. We just have to now have some parameters and some rules of engagement. There are no rules. Just do whatever you want to do over here, over there. The collectives getting involved. I think that's not great for the sport. The fact that you're going to pay a guy $10 million to come play for your school, and it's pay for play. NIL was about a guy like Bryce Young at Alabama. If he could make $10 million being Bryce Young, I think we all agree, so be it. Go make $10 million. If Caleb Williams at USC creates a brand for himself and he can make $10 million and drive a Lamborghini, so be it. But I don't like stealing from Miami of Ohio or whoever it might be for the sake of, hey, Texas A&M needs a left tackle. Okay, let's go to Southern Miss and get that freshman All-American. That's not good for the game. So there's so many things. We could go on forever of what needs to be done. At the end of the day, we need leadership. We need a voice. We need somebody that's has the guts to stand up to the threat of litigation. And the only way you can do that is partner with some kind of players union and create a CBA, create some rules. Everybody understands them, and away we go. And right now, the players have all the control. When you and I played, we had zero control.
Right.
Now they have all the control. And obviously, that's not good for the players themselves. It's not good for the game. The players may think it's good for them, but as a parent, that's not
scary.
Good. Not good.
Scary. Yeah.
It's not, some of the best things that I learned when I was 18, 19, 20 were some of the worst things that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have had an easy way out, I would have taken it
every time.
But man, football, that's what it teaches, is that hard work and perseverance. And this sucks. This isn't fair. The coach is doing this, but you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And after your experience, maybe it wasn't perfect. Mine certainly wasn't, but man, I learned so many life lessons that impact me every single day of my life, whether it's as a husband or as a dad, as an employee of ESPN or Amazon, whatever I do, my preparation, like before I talk to you, I'm on my board right now, I'm taking notes, I'm studying film. Like there's a lot there that I feel like we're taking away from the players. And I'm just hopeful that we get back to, coaches having a positive impact, even though it's tough love. It's a positive long-term impact. And I feel like that's being taken away in a lot of cases from the players and from the coaches.
Yeah, there's a lot to take away there, Kirk. And I appreciate you taking the time. Like we've got to make sure that we, like I said, we preserve this game that we all love. And there's a happy medium with all of this, but it's going to take leadership to find that sweet spot. All right, we're here, man. You're calling the game. There's nobody better to talk to. It's some heavy stuff, but it's important stuff. But this is the game that we all prepare for. Every player is every day they put in work is trying to get here. We've got Ohio State, Notre Dame, national championship. You're on the call, and you and Chris Fowler obviously in the booth. As you prepare for this game, I don't know why, but the first thing that jumps out to me, and I'm curious to get your take on it, like the coaching job that has been done coming off of that Michigan game, from Ryan Day to kind of galvanize this team and it's us versus the world and putting us that behind, like that's not easy to do in this day and age we live. To Chip Kelly and like the counters and misdirection and opening up the passing game and empowering his quarterback, to Jim Knowles, to like adding the safety, Caleb Downs, and now a different defensive coverage structure. Like to see that much coaching going in this late in the season, how unique is that? And just kind of explain to people who are tuning in how impactful that's all been for this Ohio State run.
I think that's what's so cool about this 12-team playoff is you have two teams that hit some serious adversity and had to overcome it to even punch their ticket to get into the playoff. And in Ohio State's case, as you know, the Ohio State-Michigan game, you can put it up there with whatever rivalry you want to put it up there with. And I lived it myself. And when I was there, we never beat Michigan. And John Cooper was criticized. John Cooper was, of course, no matter, he'd go 11-1 every year and lose that game. And people every single year said, fire him, fire him, fire him. And he lasted somehow about 13 years. And, Jim Tressel had a ton of success. And then Urban Meyer was 7-0. And then Ryan Day came in right after Urban Meyer went 7-0. And he's had some difficulties here these last, was going into this year, the last 3 years, so many devastating losses. And they put it all in on this year that, they get them at home. Michigan was kind of rebuilding after their national championship year. Obviously didn't have a great year offensively. And everyone just knew, Ohio State fans just thought it was a given. Who cares about the rivalry? Ohio State, they're too good. They're going to win. And they lose that one. And then we see what happened at the end, the flag situation, the fights, it was just a mess. And the lot of the narrative on the back end of that, not from the nation, well, I guess the nation too, but I think more impactful was a lot of the Ohio State media and fans were like, this guy's lost 4 in a row. Urban won 7 in a row. Regardless of how many games he's won, he can't win that game. And there was a bit, who cares we're going to the playoff? There was that was hanging around for, and I don't mean everybody, but a good percentage of people. And then they played Tennessee, and you saw, we know Tennessee travels, but somehow Tennessee had 35,000 fans inside Ohio Stadium. So I know it was cold out, but if they had that game right now with the buzz and energy around Ohio State football right now, there would have been maybe 7 Tennessee fans in that stadium. So
right.
That tells you that people are like, the hell with it after that Michigan game. And so I happen to have a son on the team who's a senior. They do what's called senior tackle. It's a tradition they do every year. And it used to be open to the public and the media. It's closed now, except for the senior parents and the rest of the team and the coaches. And we went to it. And what they do is it's a very tight-knit thing. And he gets his seniors and he says something about 45 seconds to a minute about each guy. And then the guy grabs the mic and he says what it's meant to him to be a part of Ohio State. This is fresh off of all this stuff.
Man.
And man, I just stood there as a dad and I just watched, and tearing up, watching Trevion Henderson talk, who's been through a lot, watching, Jack Sawyer talked, JTT talk, watching all these guys, Lathan Ransom. That's what's I think a little bit of a misconception is Ohio State bought their roster. They had to spend money to keep a lot of guys because a lot of these guys have been playing on defense for 3 years. They've lost to Michigan 4 times on the field. Mm-hmm. Caleb Downs is a new piece, but everybody else has been there. They just had to spend money in this new world so they wouldn't leave.
Right.
I think it's a little bit of a misconception that some people talk about. Although they better win, they went out and spent $20 million. No, that's to keep a lot of these guys. So it was a veteran group that suffered a lot, and I feel like they kind of drew a line in the sand that day at that senior tackle. And all I heard from each guy is, as they were kind of crying, talking, like, this isn't it. We're not saying goodbye. Like, we got 4 more games. Every single guy. Talked to Ryan Day after, and he opened up a lot to me about what he was feeling at that time. And he had a look in his eye like he was about to go into a middle of a ring at a MMA or UFC fight and go to the death. Like he had that look in his eye. Mm-hmm. And fight or flight. And it was just like, he's like, we got 4. Last thing he said to me was, hey, I'll see you soon, man. He goes, we got 4 more to go. Like, I must have heard. I was just like, man, these guys, this is more than just talk. Like, there's a look. So they played Tennessee. They took care of business. They went out to the Rose Bowl, took care of business. As you said, they opened up things. They got more aggressive. It's almost like the weight of just the stress of Michigan was behind them. Yeah. Like, what the hell? What else could go wrong? Like, what do we have to lose? Right. What do we have to lose kind of mentality? And I think that's really carried them. And then they go to the game against Texas, and Texas did a great job defensively, taking Jeremiah away, the big playability away. Chip had to find other answers, and he did with Carnell Tate and Trevion Henderson, who's a freaky, talented back. Junkins, the kid that came over from Ole Miss. And they just had to kind of earn their way. If Texas would have scored there at the 1 yard line and tie it up with about 3 to go, that would have been a hell of a finish to see what would have happened, right?
Yeah.
But Jack Sawyer ends up making the play. So now here we go. It's Ohio State and Notre Dame had to overcome their own obstacles. If you look at it on paper, that's why Vegas, I think, has Ohio State, whatever it is, 8 or 9 point favorite. If you go position by position, which is a dangerous thing to me in football, it's very easy to say Ohio State's better here, they're better here, they're better here. Notre Dame is like that typical, like a team that they make a movie out of that,
Yeah.
how did they win the national championship kind of thing. They have good players, but they're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
They're a great team. You look at them in pregame and you watch them. There's a few guys that kind of stand out. That you look at the other end who they're playing, and you're like, "Whoa, look at that guy!" And you look at Notre Dame, and you're like, oh, "We'll see." And then they play as 11 on
Mm-hmm.
special teams and defense mainly. Offense is doing what they need to do. That's what makes this game so exciting for me. Getting ready to call it is you have this team that's just like a freight train with all this NFL talent and experience at Ohio State. And you got Marcus Freeman, a former Buckeye, who was a great player, who within a few years has taken Notre Dame all the way to the national championship. Nobody really looks at them as like, there's no way you can really win this game. It's almost like, please keep telling us that.
Yes.
Please keep telling us we have
Right.
no chance to win this game.
Right.
We're going to accidentally show up Monday night. If you'll allow us, we'll put our uniforms on. Why don't we kick it off and let's just see what happens.
Like what happens?
That's the kind of the vibe I feel like coming out of the Notre Dame camp. And I just feel like in college football, you just never know. And I think that's what makes this game. Now, Notre Dame will have to win the turnover margin. They'll have to win the field position battle with special teams, whether they get a big block, punt, or make a play on that in that area. And they're going to have to like find a way to get to that fourth quarter and look up, and it's 20-17 or it's 17-14 or whatever it is. And it's like, all right, now we got them where we want them. Let's go find a way to win this game. I mean, it's going to have to be that old school style of football to play in their favor, limit the explosives, play old school football, and find a way to win it in the fourth quarter. If it goes their way, that's how it'll have to go.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at it, I see it the same way. I mean, Notre Dame has to try and take that more talented Ohio State team into the deep water and try to make it a battle of wills, keep it close. Maybe a gadget play comes into play. I wouldn't be surprised to see a trick play at some point. But the problem I think Notre Dame faces is that this Ohio State team is a tough and physical team too. Yeah. It's almost a little bit of careful what you ask for, because you don't want to meet those guys in an alley either. Yeah. So, it seems to me that it's going to have to unfold the same way. It's going to be that Notre Dame runs the ball well enough to sustain drives, to extend drives, and to keep it close. But Marcus Freeman and his staff have been excellent all year, so it'll be interesting to see what their game plan is. Yeah. I mean, I do think people underestimate Notre Dame's talent. Standing on the field and watching them against Penn State, that first half could not have gone any worse for them offensively. They just couldn't come up with any playmakers. And Todd, if you and Steve looked at their wide receivers, they're good athletes. I don't know if they don't have Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate. Those guys were clearly selected to be difference makers in an offense. They have very talented guys that are very capable, kind of like gym rats kind of guys that if you sleep on them, then I think you're going to get in trouble. They do a really good job with, little things like their formations, their motions, their tempo, just enough to give you some headaches and how you communicate on defense. And Mike Denbrock's one of the best. He's the offensive coordinator and play caller for Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. He had Desmond Ridder at Cincinnati the year that Cincinnati went all the way to the playoff and lost to Alabama. He's had Jaden Daniels.
The turnaround he made with him.
So the reason I bring that up is he's been there. He's done that. He understands when you go up against a Goliath like this. And he also has experience in working with a skill set like Riley Leonard. I'm not comparing Riley to the previous two that we talked about. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is a generational talent, but it's a similar skill set as far as this guy has the ability to run. The QB run game, if they hang in, and like you said, Steve, if they get their run game going, clearly Riley Leonard's going to have to carry it 15, 20 times and have to be that +1 that Ohio State's going to get Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom down and have to be involved. And and run support. Maybe that gives them some opportunities. I think the corners at Ohio State are good. They've been vulnerable. If there's one spot where
you can get them.
Right.
You can make plays when they're on islands. And I think Notre Dame's good enough. So if you can get those safeties down to have to account for Riley and Jeremiah Love and company and get them involved in run support, and then you play action and you start to try to get some deep crossers or sail route concepts, whatever it might be, all that's going to have to be like a jigsaw puzzle that Denbrock's putting together as the game is going on. If they can't run the ball, because that Ohio State defensive line is on fire, not just the edge guys, but Tyleek Williams is an NFL guy.
Yep.
Hamilton. I mean, they're physical. They're shedding people. Like if they're winning and they don't need the safeties down, then we can, it's over. Notre Dame's offensive line will have to win that battle up front and avoid those third and obvious passing situations, kind of play on their terms, I think, for them to really get some rhythm going offensively. Otherwise, they'll have to do what they did against Georgia. They did not have any rhythm offensively, but they won special teams, had a big return. They got big turnover, gave them the ball at like the 10-yard line. Like it'd have to be that kind of game if they can't get their offense going against a very, very athletic and powerful Ohio State defense.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of fascinated on the other side of the ball. You've got this Notre Dame defense, like cover one, safety up, in your face, like press man and confident. But then you look at Ohio State, and since the Michigan game, it's like, all right, go ahead, try us. Chip is absolutely empowered Will Howard as a passer. I've seen so much growth out of him. Obviously, the weapons he has with 4 and 2 and Tate Carnell Tate 17 when they need him. But you look at it, okay, man-to-man Tennessee, nightmare, right? Oregon tried to kind of mix things up. We saw when they were playing a little more zone than they were comfortable with, breakdowns in the secondary. Then you see Texas, the best in the country. It's zone coverage, like is disciplined and just functional inside that structure, as you'll find in college football, did a great job. But as you said, Chip and kind of had to manufacture things, a little more patience. But this is not a Notre Dame team. Like I watch him on tape. It's all of this press man and that aggressive attack. So are we going to get away from what we do best? Or are we just going to line up and do what we do best and hope for the best? I mean, what do you expect to see on that side?
That's what I'm heading to Atlanta today. We meet with Al Golden and Marcus on Saturday. And honestly, dude, that to me is the big question, because the teams that have played man to man, especially in the postseason, it's been a Mike Tyson knockout in the first
90 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's over. Make your choice. Michael Spinks, Trevor Burbick, whichever knockout you want. It's been that kind of deal. And here they are. They play man. I think they're second in the nation is the percentage of man coverage that they play. And that's what they're good at. They're also really smart. They're really well coached. They see Jeremiah Smith. They know, Ben Morrison's one of the top corners in the nation. He's been out, most of the year. This kid, Leonard Moore, has stepped up. He's a true freshman.
I know.
Done an amazing job. He's got great length at 6'2". Christian Gray, another highly touted corners on the other side. I think they're going to leave them. They're going to have to. Because here's the thing. If you say we're going to sit back, first of all, that's not your game. And now you're relying on your front without Mills. They've had some other injuries up front. Ohio State's offensive line has been good. I don't want to say they're dominant. They've had some injuries, obviously. They lost to Remington, Winter, and McLaughlin. They've kind of made do with what they have. But don't you want to kind of keep the game in front of you? Like if the goal is to win on defense and win on special teams, to me, it's a major roll of the dice if you do what you do and leave your corners on islands against Chip Kelly and these receivers, because then it becomes a game of Will Howard gets the snap, and it's a race from the pass rush, whether you bring in pressure, or can you get to Will Howard
right
before Jeremiah Smith separates. Like it's a race to see, and that's a dangerous proposition. So I think you got to be a little bit of both, which I think you're going to play some man because you're going to have to, but I think they're going to rely more on simulated pressure. They love to blitz 34, 24, and 3. I mean, that's just the way they get pressure, especially with Riley Mills out. They don't have a lot of pass rushers. They've got to rely on linebackers and nickels and safeties to be able to get home. So I think you just have to be aware where 4 is, bracket him, have a roll coverage towards him, help your corners out. Other times you're bringing people and you're just hoping you get to them before Will Howard can have time to make the throw. Keep this in mind. Will Howard in those first 2 games, it almost looked like 7-on-7.
Yes.
It wasn't just the receivers. Todd, you see, he's back there. I mean, you could draw a 3-yard pocket almost every time he threw the football. And so I'm a huge Will Howard fan, but Texas did a much better job. They had 2 sacks. They pressured him. Mm-hmm. It's a different game for any quarterback. But, man, if Will's clean with those receivers and Chip Kelly, it's a problem. They've got to come up with ways. Al Golden's as good as there is at coming up with new wrinkles and creative ways to affect the offensive line and their communication. But if you sit back, now you're getting Trevion Henderson and Junkins running downhill. Eventually, you're going to have to say, I'd rather give up those yards on the ground than give a big one over the top. Let's take our chances. Let's make them go 10, 11, 12 plays, and then let's try to get creative in the red zone and hope we can win in the red zone and do what we do in the red zone and make things have to go quicker for them, tighter space, and they kick field goals. I mean, that's what I would do if I were Notre Dame. And then rely on my offense to get maybe a short field, my special teams. Mm-hmm. I think that's the way they're going to have to do it. I just can't see them being a team that's, I don't want to say arrogant, but
stubborn.
Stubborn. Hey, that's a good one. Stubborn enough to be like, we do what we do, and hopefully it's good enough to win the national championship. I think Marcus is a defensive guy, one of the better defensive minds. Al Golden, you got 2 really almost savants on that side of the ball that have had 9 days to say, we're not doing that. Let's be smart. Let's be smart. Let's pick our spots. That's my guess. Without talking to them, I think that'll be the approach.
We could do this all day, man.
Yeah,
I love it. You got a plane to catch. You got to get to Atlanta, and I just always love cutting it up and talking ball with you. So we appreciate your time. The whole world will be watching. We'll be watching as well. I'll probably be texting you and annoying you while you're in the booth.
Yeah, and I hit you right back too.
I've never seen anything like it. Like occasionally, I try not to bug people because I've been in that role. But if I've got something that's like driving me crazy, and like 3 seconds later, he'll have just finished his sentence.
How do you do it?
Did you see 17 on that?
Oh, that's hilarious.
How does he do it?
I'm counting on some texts from you Monday night.
I will.
Yeah,
I will, brother. I appreciate you, and everything I've said. When we started this thing off, I couldn't be more appreciative of your support throughout and for what you do for this game. And look forward to talking to you soon and agree with you. I'd love to have our paths cross and work with you again soon.
Absolutely, man. That's
all right, buddy.
Well, let's stay connected, and anytime you guys need me, happy to hop on.
All right, perfect. I'm sure we'll be calling you around the draft. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.